And good morning, everyone, and welcome. I'm Jennifer Britton, one half of the Remote Pathways podcast. Welcome back to our May 2021 monthly community call. I'm here today with Michelle and also Linda, one of the members of our community. Hey, Michelle, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Jen. I am excited. I'm going on a little road trip today and I'm like building my little podcast player playlist. So if you guys throughout the call have any other podcasts that you're currently listening to, I want to put them in my library. So
That sounds so good. I love that. I've been actually thinking about the podcast, and maybe we need to take it on the road into Clubhouse soon. I think in our subsequent months, we may be doing a little bit of a additional format to widen our community. But for now, if you found your way here, welcome. We know that so many of you watch this after the fact, so thank you for taking time. And Linda, thanks for taking time to be with us today. How are you keeping? We've missed you the last couple of months.
Yes, I'm doing great. Been very busy doing some classes online that I'm teaching and just staying busy and enjoying beautiful summer weather.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, today's topic is all about the different layers of connection. What I like to talk about, the 6 layers of connection. If you pick up my newest book, which will be coming out in about 5, 6 weeks, middle of June, which is called Reconnecting Workspaces, you can read a little bit more about these 6 layers of connection, but they've been shaped by the conversations. And I think as we go through these today, whether you're like Linda doing online teaching, whether you're, like me working with teams, or for you, Michelle, I know you do a lot of coaching work. The layers of connection that show up in this remote and virtual and hybrid space is pretty amazing. So, Michelle, let's bring your voice in. What have you been focusing on in the last month? What do you want to share with our listeners?
I'm having a conversation celebration. So I'm having all sorts of conversations on the road, on the phone, via email. I'm just trying to have as many conversations as possible and listen to the voices out there in the field.
Fantastic. Well, that's really great level setting. So, do you want to take us through with our first exercise of the day?
Yeah, to get started, I'd just love to know what's your favorite form of connection. And we have like 7 different types of virtual connection here. Excuse me, not just virtual connection, but connection in general. And it can be from this list, or it can be something that just comes up from your heart, or something that you've experienced. But pick 1, 2, or perhaps a few there.
I love these. These are so great.
Aren't they? They're cartoons.
They are fantastic. They are fun. Can we start with you today, Michelle? Since even though you introduced us, like what are your favorites?
I think I'm old school, as they say. I love that rotary black phone with a long cord. It just brings me back to my childhood. If you wanted to know where I was on the phone. And I'll never forget the day that my parents got one of those. It was anchored to the wall. It was landline, and they got one of those long winding cords, and I could go throughout the house and travel. I thought it was the greatest thing. So I've been having great conversations my entire life. So that phone's number 1 for me.
That is hilarious. I could just imagine a little Michelle wandering around her home,
Mhm.
going in and out of the doorways.
Ah,
What about you, Linda? What's your favorite form of
it-
connection?
I want to say in person, but my best friend, I talk to her on the phone every single day. So I have to say phone is a very, very important to me. I love being in person, and I am very grateful, number 3 there, to see, just even like us today. Last night when I did my class, I had people all over the United States. I had a lady join us from Ireland. Jen, I know that you're very familiar with, worldwide connection. And so, I'm just very thankful to be able to communicate online. But in person, there's nothing like just being in person with people.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
Well said.
Totally. I think I'm with both of you. It's interesting. I was not a phone person when I was little. I really didn't like the phone. My mother was always on the phone, but I was never on the phone. And so I've always been, well, I wouldn't say I've always been, because as you know, the last 18 years of my life now have been all online. in all those different forms. But I too miss the in-person. And here at our home, we were having some discussion the other day about, what's next. And I was thinking, it would be so nice to go and do a retreat actually in the Caribbean. And I was talking with my sister-in-law who was saying, what, it would be really fun. I could come and cook. We could do cooking classes. And she was like, I'm like, yeah, you could be our like resident Caribbean chef and, have like a bit of a Caribbean family / retreat for for the coaches that I work with. I think everyone would be happy to go next summer or next winter.
I think I can speak for Linda here too. Sign us up, put us in your suitcase. We are there, Jen.
Yes, we're there.
I'm thinking reconnecting workspaces or, group and team coaching intensive needs to hit Antigua or Barbados.
Yes.
So let's see what the world will be doing. But, part of this next phase, I do hope, is going to be how do we reconnect and how do we bring people out of this slumber that we've been in? How do we help people reestablish themselves, et cetera? And that's what my whole new book is going to be all about. So if you haven't caught episode 35, I think, Michelle? Episode 35 was 6 Layers of Connection that came out about a week or two ago.
Yes, I think you're right. Yeah, no, sorry. It's still early in the morning. Yes.
Well, maybe I'll just keep on moving because you know what? We're still in that experimentation phase. And with PlanDoTrack, this quarter, it's all about thinking about what you're trying out. So Linda, was there anything you tried out or have been experimenting with your online courses right now?
Sorry, I was muted, so I wanted to make sure that I was trying to unmute. Have I experimented with anything new for my online courses? Really, the only thing that I can say that what I have done differently to have more people join me on my online course, because I thought this last time when I had my signups in the beginning, I said, I'm not getting anyone to sign up. Everybody's just all zoomed out. They've just had enough of Zoom, right? However, whenever I only had a couple people signed up, I decided to do an online interview with the author of the book that we were going to be studying. And that really opened up the pathway, honestly, to for those participants to join. So that was something kind of different, a different approach into, how do I get these people to kind of connect and engage with this, because nobody was signing up.
Yeah. Well, standing out, right? Stand out virtually, a big part of the work I was doing 6 months ago. It's a really, really important piece. And whether we're doing it virtually or hybrid or back face to face, my guess is you might need to be doing things a little bit differently, building on the foundation you've got, but doing things a little differently. Michelle, is there anything you've been experimenting with?
I think, how mobile can I get? I keep parsing down, so to speak, on how many bags can I get out the door with and still be productive. So that's been my grand experiment.
Ooh, I like that. I totally like that. I don't know. I'm thinking of like, what isn't an experiment in my everyday, right? So my world is always an experiment. It's just like, I just keep iterating. That's like the way this business rolls for me. So with that, everyone, think about how you're experimenting this month, and we're going to move into our water cooler. So last month, we were joined by Beth Bilo. Really enjoyed that conversation about conversations, and we had a big bit of a thread going around visible doesn't necessarily mean available. So with that, we are segueing into the 6 layers of connection, which was really shaped by the standout virtually conversations I was having last summer with people, as we started to realize, like all this work, whether we're face-to-face, virtual, remote, hybrid, it has multiple layers. And today I wanted to share a little bit more about the 6 layers that we often see in virtual conversations. So I'd like you all to think about a time, maybe in the last few weeks, when you've been on a call where you left going, wow, that was really good, versus that was okay. I don't know what we really did, or I'm not sure what we really covered, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this. My guess is that wow versus the meh call really had 6 different layers that were present. And I'd like you to think about not just a call you've done, but an upcoming call you have in the next few days, to think about how you can make each one of these layers stand out a little bit more. So, Michelle, do you have a call coming to mind? I know you're always on the phone. So, is there a call you want to keep in mind? You don't have to name what it is, but is there a call you want to think about as we go through this?
Yeah, just gathering together with a community. Yes.
Okay, excellent. How about you, Linda? Have you got some calls upcoming you can apply this to?
Yeah, I would say my next class that I'm going to teach, the class that I taught last night, I really would like to improve on communicating. Having such a large group, at least a large group for me, was about 50 people, between 35 to 50 people, and so I want to know how to facilitate and communicate that better.
Yes. Well, it comes down to these layers, right? Because when we have 20, 50, or several hundred, which is a call that I'm moving into in a couple of hours, we want to make sure that we're helping people connect on the different levels, because we all have sort of a different eye and perspective around this. So, first one is like, how are you helping people connect in with the topic? And we've been modeling this each and every community call. So you know that our format really is welcome, the quick exercise to bring people into the room. And our question, like today, is usually around the topic. So the question is, what is the visual that represents, your perspective around connection? And the quicker we can bring people into the room and connect them in with the topic, with what's in it for me, or what's important about this, how do I connect with it, the better it is for everyone. If we don't see the connection, we're easily going to just literally disconnect. And that may mean multitasking, or especially now, it may just mean people actually just disconnect off the phone. So think about what you could do to anchor that front end and even along the conversation, the connection between the person and the topic. And that could be as creative as you want, but it's an essential piece. So that's layer one. Layer two is connection with you, right? If we're not being authentic, if we're not sharing a little bit about ourselves, it can be like, who is she or who is he, and what's the reason? So you don't want to become, I think, too story heavy, because we have been with people where it becomes all about me, the presenter. But we do want to help bring people into the room, connecting them with you, who you are, and what makes you unique. And again, I think our exercise first thing this morning allowed people to share a little bit more about themselves. And Michelle and I were able to bring a little bit more about ourselves to the conversation as well. So think about what you can do to connect people with you, the facilitator. So with that, it's not just about you. It's about connecting with others. Even if you're in a room of, like you said, Linda, 50 people, several hundred people, we have amazing opportunity at this moment in time to really harness the crowd, or really harness the community. And so how are you connecting people with others? Are you doing things like using chat, or using the back chat, as I like to say? Because often when I'm presenting to big groups, we have people that might never have actually come together, but they work in industries, they have similar levels of work, and the ability to share across that group is pretty amazing. And so I like to activate the back chat, as I call it, just getting people to use that chat function. I'll be very specific and maybe throwing out a question like, what's a resource you like? Or what's a book or a podcast or a website? And typically, I'll always ask the organizer, I'll say, can we share the chat? Can we get people to save the chat at the end of the call? And then they walk away with a whole list of things that they can do and they can apply. And better yet, it's a physical structure that they're going to be able to look, maybe keep, and say, oh, yeah, that was that call with so and so. So you get to stand out in a very practical way. So think about how you can connect people with others. I just shared the example of chat, but we could be doing breakouts, we could be doing annotation, and whatever we can do to help people connect physically, verbally in this space, I think is so important. So with those first three, topic, you, and others, what's important for you to really put more emphasis on? And I'll just ask both of you right now. So Michelle, what's really important for you out of these first three?
I think that with the others, just the breakouts, it's always been, you introduced that to me, Jen, and it's always been so powerful. It never gets old. I always love breakout sessions. So that's top of mind for me.
It never gets old. It really doesn't. Absolutely. And how about you, Linda? Out of those first three, topic, you, and others, which one's important for you to look at?
I want to make sure that I am connecting everyone to one another. And I like the idea of the chatting. But I really honestly, to be honest, walking away from what you just said, I want to make sure too that it doesn't become about me. Sometimes it's because I'm teaching, I want to make sure that I'm getting all this information out. And I do have stories and that kind of thing to connect with the teaching, but I learned that it really, the call is so much more, it's richer when the participants can communicate and share their personal experiences. So I really want to make sure that I kind of make sure that I'm not focusing too much on me and what I need to communicate. Does that make sense?
Ooh, it makes a lot of sense. Absolutely. And I think we can all think of calls where the balance just wasn't right. And this is a really interesting cultural layer, right? You said it earlier, Linda, like I spent so many years working cross-culturally. And for those of us in North America, it's okay. And actually, it's sort of expected, even more in the US than in Canada, to share your story. But for other cultures of the world, it looks like braggadocio, right? It looks like you're bragging and you're really like full of yourself. And so it's interesting as you scale your work also to global audiences, you'll want to think about how do you really adjust each one of these layers, right? There can be more of one than another. And likewise, it's not just culture. It's like, what's the purpose and who's the audience? Is this a professional presentation? Is this a, is this like a more community-based presentation? So we do want to almost use these like little bits of palette and in terms of the amount that we put in. All right, so three more that we want to think about. And the next one, of course, is a content. So you said it really well, Linda, like what are we presenting? How much do we bring in? How much is enough? How much is too much? And again, I probably also err on the side of like a lot of content. However, I think we can do it in engaging ways. And I think we want to bring it back to, the what of learning, the so what's important about this, and now what are you going to do about it? Because if there's no call to action, and if we're not asking people, what's next in terms of their connection to this content and what they've heard, what they might be able to do with it, it's just tidbits of information, right? It's not learning, it's not knowledge. So really be thinking about how you connect people in with the content. And content doesn't just have to be a story. It could be a video. It could be a demonstration, right? Late last week, I was asked by I was a guest speaker for a master's program, and they wanted me not only to just talk about group coaching, but to actually demo it. So I did almost an hour-long demo with about 8 of the 60 people that were on Zoom. And it was a really fascinating thing because we were all there in Zoom, right? And it was just a lot of fun, but it really, I think, helped to anchor the content that I then presented, because people could reflect back on, oh yes, that's why she asked that kind of question, or oh yes, that's the arc of the coaching process. So really think through how you can activate the connection with content as well as the connection with the platform. So whether we're using Zoom or Teams or GoToMeeting or WebEx, or we're back in the room, what are you doing to leverage the what am I trying to say here? Like leverage the abilities or the application that you're on. So Zoom, me, I love Zoom. I love my annotation. In a couple of hours, I'll be using annotation quite a bit with 300 people, and it'll be a mess, but you know what? That'll be something people remember. And actually the latest research shows that the things that are messy, like messy handwriting, is actually remembered better than things that look really slick. So that's an interesting thing. Yeah. So Michelle, you put the heart on that one. What does that connect with for you?
Yeah, I'm all about the emojis. If I can play with things,
Totally.
It's a great way to bring my voice to the table.
How are we activating that component of the platform, which are all the bells and whistles? And then finally, the context, because we do operate beyond the screen. So what invitation are you doing to get people to look beyond the screen, whether it's outside your window, whether it's practicing the 20-20-20 rule, that notion of like every 20 minutes, get people to raise their eyes for 20 seconds, looking in the distance about 20 feet or 20 meters, depending on which part of the world you're in. And, you know, the context is so important for boosting that layer of connection. It can mean everything, especially when we're on a team and we're not seeing these elements. So that is it. 6 layers of connection. We go into more depth in the, I think it's episode 35, one of our most recent episodes here at the Remote Pathways podcast. I'm going to just ask each one of you, you know, what are you connecting with? Which one of these can you amplify? We heard the first 3, but maybe there's really now 1 out of the 6 that stands out. And I'd invite you, whether it's a big call, a small call, something in person or not, what can you be doing differently to help people activate this? Because it's when we do have these 6 layers really dialed in that I think it becomes a like, oh my goodness, that was such a good use of my time. I really got a lot out of it. And that's what we want in a world where it can become really a blur very quickly.
Well
So,
said.
yeah. So Michelle, thoughts, comments as we go to segue out of today's teaching?
I just want to just say, I love your visual here. That's standing out for me. This visual anchor, this will help me take this learning forward.
I like it too. I like it too. It's again, like if we're thinking about connection and connecting, how are people also connecting? Is it a visual doorway? Is it the auditory doorway? Is it kinesthetic? And so that could actually be a 7th layer in terms of activating the different learning styles. And while there's still so much debate as to whether people do have different learning styles, I think we've seen in the last year, yes, people do. And
Yes.
if we look out at like the shift in even in the virtual space of, you know, streaming, right, which is so visually rich, to the auditory channels of podcasting and Clubhouse right now, we are seeing people really having and making a choice. So thanks for that. Linda, what are you connecting with from today's teaching?
She's on mute, so it might take her a half minute.
Yeah, I think she's on annotate too.
Oh, nice. She's going with the scribbles, right? She
Yeah,
took that in.
Ops, I'm going to take that as opportunities or oops. It's all good, Linda. It's all
Great.
good. So what, you know, 6 layers of connection. Think about how you are going to activate that as you get going. I'm going to clear our drawings so they don't.
Yes, sorry, I could not unmute. And it was annotations actually that I was going to say. I wasn't trying to do that on purpose. But that's really, honestly, I want to be able to, I didn't really think about that. I love what you said about that, just the visual of the handwriting, and that just, you know, just brings them, you know, an ability to remember it more. So I'm definitely going to use the platform more.
Well, memorability is just so key. It's like, how are we creating memorability? And I think both of you and others were with me last summer in the Standout Virtually challenges that I was running. And really, it was about how do we create these memorable wow calls? It's still an issue, and it's going to be even more of an issue as, you know, places open up, because we will probably be in a bit of a hybrid world for a lot of them. And so connecting people in becomes even more important, because we will have different contexts, but perhaps feeling like we're back in the workspace. So that's it for today. 6 layers of connection. We talked about it. You know, we talked about what layers you're drawn to, where you've experienced this, and then thinking about design. So thank you for joining us on this one. Just yesterday, tell us about where we released our episode 36. Hard to believe we're already in the 30s. Go ahead, Michelle.
Yes, we had a special guest, Josh Little, who is the founder of the Bali app, and you'll know him also from other platforms that he is the founder of, like Maestro and Bloomfire, and he just really brought the voice to the asynchronous verbal conversations with his new Bali app, where you can do that video chat back and forth. So it was really really a powerful conversation about where people are, specifically around teams too, and global teams, and how his app can really free people up from having to be bound in time to have great conversations. So,
And I think a really pertinent time presentation as well, right?
mhm.
All that's on the go. I think we're going to see in the next 6 to 18 months just a tremendous, hopefully, there's an opportunity for a tremendous shift in the way we work, right? Certain things have come into focus in this last year, like how effective are meetings really? And do we need to do them? And so if we look at platforms and apps like Volley, it provides us with the opportunity to really do things a little bit differently so that people are connecting on the most important things rather than the things that could be held and done differently. Excellent. So that is just out, and please listen in over at our Facebook page. So Remote Pathways over on Facebook. Communication is at the heart of any remote team or business. Systems help us scale. So also, in addition to the conversation, what are the systems that are going to help you scale and streamline? The more we can automate certain things, the more that we're able to focus on the things that are important. Now, with that, as we scale, sometimes conflict becomes present. So just a reminder, episode 13, I think it was lucky number 13 when we covered conflict in a remote space. And I think that's also up there and probably one of our top 10 podcasts.
Absolutely. Yes, for sure.
Yeah. So that's Facebook. And here's our quote of the day. Go ahead, Michelle.
Yeah, this is just from Brene Brown. Connection is why we're here. It is what gives purpose and meaning to our lives. So, just a little note about the importance of connection.
Fantastic. And our conversation sparker of the week, who do you need to connect with today? And that takes us to the end of another monthly kickoff call. Stay tuned for our June dates. But before then, on May 20th, we have our monthly planning sessions, and we've been enjoying these. So please consider joining us. It's a 7:30 to 8:15 a.m. call. We'll be doing some monthly planning. So looking ahead to June, and June, of course, is the end of Q2. June is going to mark the middle of the year. So if there ever is a month to really jump and do some planning, I think the end of May is, so that we can make sure that, Q1, Q2, first half of 2021 is really, really well done. So head on over to remotepathways.com/planning. Just a reminder that all proceeds from that planning session go into supporting us to continue to create this podcast. All right, Michelle, anything else you want to say as we get going? There's our date.
I was just going to say exactly right here. Join us next month. Go ahead and mark your calendar. I think it says June 3rd at 7:00 a.m. at the our monthly community call right here on Zoom. We'd love to hear your voice. And Linda, thank you so much for joining us today. You always enrich our conversations and bless us greatly by your presence.
Thank you so much for having me. I learned a lot. I really appreciate it.
Well, I can't wait to hear how you apply it in your programming. And we'd love to hear that as well. If you're on Facebook, I'll put up a post with this and let us know, like, which layer of connection did you activate and what happened? So with that, reminder to stay tuned. You can now pre-order over at Amazon, Reconnecting Workspaces, Pathways to Thrive in the Virtual, Remote, and Hybrid World. I'll be having a lot more information as we get closer to the date about special events. It's due out around mid-June, and as we get closer, you will hear more. And with that, have a great day, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Take care. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.